So, while this movie is still trending, why not I give my first impressions on it. Of course, the movie I'm talking about is none other than Turning Red, the latest entry in the Pixar canon of animated films, CGI animated classics. I mentioned this before, but it was, at least thus far, my most anticipated movie, animated movie to be exact, of the year 2022. The primary reason why I was excited is also not so much for the premise than it was the fact that it's set in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yes, honestly, it's pretty rare for mainstream animated films, let alone those made in America, to take place in Canada. So from when I first saw the teaser trailer for it last year, it immediately met my respect, and I had my expectations high, and they were barely let down. I came into this film hoping to love it, and yes, I do. But getting a little ahead of myself, so yeah, I'm giving my first impressions after watching the film in its entirety once, the night that it premiered. I'm gonna mostly keep it spoiler free. I may mention like one spoiler, but I'm gonna keep it mostly spoiler free. Like, I really want you guys to check it out. So what's the film about? So it's about Meilin Lee, a Chinese-Canadian girl who is an absolute nerd and is a straight-A student, and it especially helps her from the fact that her mother is kind of overbearing and wants her to be like a perfect smart girl. But you know, in case I didn't mention that, she is 13, therefore she is close to almost entering adulthood, but she's technically entering adolescence, therefore she's going through puberty. So not only are her interests are changing and her personality, but also like physically, here comes the hook of this film. Meilin turns into a red panda, and as we learn as we continue to watch the film, it's actually a thing that happens with the female members of her family. It's an ancestral thing, something about an ancient Chinese goddess wishing for the ability to turn into a red panda for the sake of protection. And yeah, that was useful back then during those ancient times, but in a modern society, the ability of turning into a red panda is maybe not as needed, so that's why with the older female members of Meilin's family, they kept in their red panda spirit, essentially, into amulets that they wear around their necks. But with Meilin, the way that she deals with her ability to turn into a red panda, well, she hates it at first, and it's whenever she gets excited or lets out negative emotions, it's when she turns into that creature. So she tries the strategies of keeping her cool, and finding ways to keep her emotions in check. Although there is a point where she's honestly really liking her red panda form, and her friends think it's cool as well. Again, not going to too much spoilers here, but yeah, you get the basics of the creative hook that Turning Red has to offer. So, what are the things that I really like about this movie? So, as I mentioned at the beginning, the thing that really hooked me into this is the fact that it is taking place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This movie is more or less a autobiographical story, inspired by the life of its director, Domee Shi. She is of Chinese Canadian descent as well, and she does happen to be a resident of Toronto. And she also directed the really good short film Bao, with the woman with the dumpling son, and it's one of Pixar's best short films in recent years, and it's only just recently I remembered, oh yeah, this takes place in Toronto too. So yeah, Domee Shi is sort of like a spokesperson for representing Toronto life in mainstream animation. And speaking as a native of Ontario, Canada myself, and of course having a great deal of acquaintance with its capital city, I definitely resonate with how they portrayed the setting of Toronto. Like, I was so darn excited when I saw like such things being referenced as like the TTC and of course the CN Tower. That's like the most iconic thing about Toronto. Also, at one point, Maylin's family is eating Tim Hortons, and also the Daisy Mart. There's a couple of scenes that take place at Daisy Mart, which is a convenience store that's pretty popular in Toronto. I remember going there myself, but I definitely recognize it. And also, the Sky Dome plays a huge part in the plot as well. Well, nowadays it's known as the Rogers Center, but did I mention that this film takes place in the year 2002? Yeah, it's a pretty, some may say that's a pretty unusual year to for a film to take place. A lot of the times it will be like centuries in the past or centuries in the future, but here it's this kind of uncommon middle ground. The early 2000s, the very beginning of the millennium. And yes, that's another thing that I resonate with as a proud 2000s kid. So yeah, Domee Shi, of course there's still some more things to praise about this film, but she definitely did do a great job, did the city of Toronto justice for pretty much for the entirety of the film. Honestly, I have to say, as far as female Pixar employees go, definitely ought to look up to her highly. And also, another female Pixar employee that I look up to is definitely the director of the Spark Sort film called 20 Something, which is really good in its own right. Let me know if I should talk about that as well. And speaking of women of Pixar, right off the bat, I have to say that Turning Red is a superior female-led project at the studio compared to Brave from like 10 years ago. And of course, there's like another video detailing on how that film was screwed over with its production and how its director Brenda Chapman was fired like unnecessarily, because that was back when Pixar was a bit more of a sausage fest, essentially. But ever since the guy who directed Toy Story left in 2018, things have been improving with diversity, in this case with gender. So, not counting Brave, Turning Red is Pixar's first film to be 100% fully directed by a woman, and I have to give it props. They definitely made a great first impression here, and once again, big kudos to Domee Shi. Now, the fact that this film is taking place in Toronto and is directed by a Torontonian, it doesn't stop there. Even with the voice cast, the voice of Meilin's mother, Ming, is Sandra Oh, who you may better remember for appearing in Grey's Anatomy, but I basically remember when she appeared on Sesame Street in one episode. But yeah, Sandra Oh, she did a really good job as Ming, and she is Canadian herself. I believe she was born in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, but she did visit Toronto at least as well. I remember watching an interview with her and mentioning that, yeah, she did remember going into a Daisy Mart herself. And speaking of Daisy Mart, I think it's about time that we talk about the humor and the lines of dialogue that this film has to bring in. It kind of caught me by surprise, kind of caught me off guard with some of the jokes and references that they made. It's pretty daring for a Pixar film to like. Okay, so there's one moment in which Meilin she's sort of developing an attraction to the quirk at the Daisy Mart, because again, she's going through puberty, so of course she's growing more of an attraction to folks of the opposite sex, and yeah, that does play a part in the plot, including her love for a boy band called Fort Town. And even though there's 5 members of it, it's still called Fort Town. But yeah, the scene that really had me like, wow, really, they really got away with this. They really went there. Is Ming comes in and sees May with her doodles in her notebook, and she's like, what? Is this the sketchy Daisy Mart quirk? And then she just races to the Daisy Mart and tells the quirk his name is Devin, by the way, and basically accuses this older teen who's like 17 of possibly bugging her 13-year-old daughter, and she's like, and she not only calls him a degenerate, but also she's like, this is what happens when you don't wear sunblock and do drugs all day. Wow. I was like, really? The drugs? They mentioned drugs in a Pixar film. I was like, wow. As if The Incredibles and Incredibles 2 having some mild swears wasn't bad enough. But yeah, you have to give them like props for like going there. And that's not the only thing. There's one point where Meilin and her friends, who I'm definitely gonna talk about afterwards, Meilin and her friends are talking about how their parents are basically disapproving of them wanting to go to the Fort Town music concert. And at one point, Abby, who's one of Meilin's best friends, the crazier one, she says that her parents described Fort Town's music as, I'm not joking, I didn't mishear anything, I'm not misinterpreting anything, this is real. She says that Abby's parents says that they described Fort Town's music as stripper music. I was like, really? Did they actually go away with the word stripper in a Pixar? What? When was the last time that something made for a kid or family audience got away with a blatant stripper reference? Two Stupid Dogs in 1993? Oh, wow. So yeah, of course, and just the very fact that this film is about puberty, so of course there are some things that are a little risque and out of Pixar's norm. Even the title, it's basically a subtle, or maybe not so subtle reference to, you know, that time of the month, essentially. Yeah. But speaking of the puberty theme, I don't know, I have to say, the fact that they use Meilin turning into a red panda as he just reached the age of 13 as a metaphor for puberty. Also, I find it to be creative, and I was thinking to myself that this is one of the most creative metaphors of puberty that I've seen since that one episode of Void in Space, where Void is daydreaming about girls, specifically Brittany, and his antenna glows, and his alter egos even like come out of his imagination, like through his antenna that's glowing. It's more or less a G-rated version of you know, like the feeling that you get in your pants, or you know, I'm not going to graphic details, but yeah, you probably like get what I'm talking about. So yeah, I admire the creativity there. Of course, while keeping things like relatively G-rated. Well, technically PG rated, but you know, nothing too risque, you know, it's not like Big Mouth or anything. So yeah, let's talk more about the characters. So yeah, Meilin, she is not only a straight A student, but an absolute nerd as well, and I really like that. Really emotional, expressive nerd. And she's not the only character I like, obviously. In fact, I like her trio of friends just as much. Well, I'll admit, there isn't that much I can say about Miriam. She's okay. She seems to be like the kindest of the trio. But Abby, I absolutely love her, how energetic she is. Like she's clearly on some caffeine or something. Honestly, she kind of reminds me of Miko from Glitz Text for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's the fact that she is this excitable little teenage Asian girl or something. But yeah, I really like Abby. She's absolutely insanely adorable. But honestly, from when I saw the teaser, or rather the official trailer, I knew that Priya is gonna be my favorite of May's friends. I don't know, there's something about characters who are snarky and apathetic that have this charming appeal for me. You know, characters like Mandy and Daria Morgendorffer and pretty much anybody voiced by Ben Stein. Well, except for Buddy Baker from As Told by Ginger, he's not as deadpan as, say, the head pixie or something. But yeah, Priya, if she was real, I'd definitely have her, like, as an adopted wolf sister. She's also I love her expressing. Well, she does have that much expressions, but again, I love the appeal that goes with having the character be this apathetic. So now let's talk about the second main character aside from Meilin, and that happens to be her mother, Ming. Generally, I like her. She is an entertaining example of an overbearing mother, but at the end of the day, yeah, she's still, well, you know the name of Plankton's wife from SpongeBob, right? And if you know her name, then yeah, that's the way I could describe Ming. She is an absolute Karen. But I don't hear anything. But yeah, yeah, and once again, Sandra Oh did a really good job with the performance of this character. But speaking of Ming, that brings me to. I'll admit, if there's any flaws that I have with the film, it was kind of predictable, and okay, this is where I will get into some spoiler territory. Not going to go into great details like regarding how it ends, but yeah, there was a point where Mei Wen was talking to her dad, Jin. He's cool in his own right, too. Definitely a much more mellow guy compared to his wife. But yeah, there was a point where Mei Wen was talking to her dad, and he was talking about how at one point he did see his wife's red panda form, because once again it's a genetic thing with the female members of this family. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention another main plot point is yes, Mei Wen's family has a temple that is used as a tourist attraction. That's cool. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, yeah, Jin says that at one point he did see Ming's red panda form, and mentioned that it was huge. So from there, I was like, okay, I kind of sense where this is going. I know that at one point, Mei Wen is going to piss off Ming so much that she's gonna wet out her red panda self. And yes, I predicted correctly. Yes, I have to mention, it impressed me with the animation on Mei Wen's mom's red panda form. She's this ginormous Godzilla-like creature, and what I admire the most is with the animation, you can really feel the weight. Like, even though you're just sitting down watching it technically, you're not really at the scene of the accident, but you still feel the weight of it. This ginormous, probably 1 million pound creature, just stomping and moving around and moving like really slowly at that compared to everybody else. So that's a good thing. That's how you know that Pixar animators are really great at their craft. Really successful animation when it comes to how the characters move. It's when you'll be able to show the weight behind the characters, like depending on how big or small or skinny or skinny or fat they are. Yeah, they really nailed it with the animation of Ming's panda form. And that's, of course, that's not the only thing I have to say about the animation. It's really colorful and expressive. One of the most creative looking animated films from Pixar, definitely in recent years. And in general, I love how these days with CGI films, particularly stuff like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Mitchell's vs. the Machines, they're taking more risks and creative liberties of pushing the limits of what CGI could do. In fact, they could look cartoony as if it were 2D animated. And yeah, there is some 2D effects in the CGI of those two films, and of course Turning Red, and it turned out all splendidly, in my opinion. I know, like, even before the film came out, there's some backlash because of how out of the norm this film looked compared to Pixar's other stuff. But I'm here just like, dude, calm down. It's not that cancerous. Of course, there are some more naive, angry people in the cartoon community who think that it's another case of the so-called kill or studio, but no, there's no such thing as a cute or style. It's bean mouth style or thin wine style or bean mouth thin wine animation style, but there's no cute or style. Like, actually, you know what? If you think that Turning Red's animation is unappealing compared to Pixar's other films, then to be honest, it's okay. Like we're all entitled to our opinions. But also, I absolutely think it's adorable and fun to look at. And this film is about emotions. Well, not really to the same extent as Inside Out, with always stars emotions, but with something like Turning Red. The themes that it explores and how the characters are, with Meilin being, you know, battling these emotions as he's just turned to a teenager and slowly growing to an adult. So yeah, it makes sense for this animation style to be as expressive as it is. But speaking of unnecessary controversies with the film, those who criticize it for not being good for the sense that, you know, it's not relatable, basically because, I don't know, it stars a teenage girl. Well, on one hand, I sort of sense where you're coming from. Of course, like, not everybody is exactly like Meilin. Like, not every human is like a 13-year-old girl, but honestly, regardless of age or even gender, there's still some things we can relate to with these characters, with their personality traits and their interests. As someone who is a fan of other anime properties starring teenage girls, including As Told by Ginger, Braceface, and of course the Proud Family, even though I'm not the same gender as any of those protagonists, there's still some things that I could relate to with their personality and their struggles and their skills and interests. And also with Meilin, it's no different. Like I mentioned, she is an absolute geek, an energetic geek, and I admire that. In general, I love how Hollywood is sort of embracing geekish looking protagonists in animation. Like, there's particularly an increase with female geekish protagonists, with not just May, but also Katie from Mitchell's vs. the Machines and Mirabelle from Encanto. Both films are awesome too, definitely among the biggest highlights of last year's animation output. Overall, like I mentioned, I expected Turning Red to be a great film, and it definitely was. And even though it was not released in theaters and rather straight to Disney Plus, being the third consecutive Pixar film to be given that treatment, I know some people are understandably upset about that, but honestly, I'm okay with it. Once again, even though like the pandemic is calming down more and more, you know, it's okay that we keep ourselves safe at home, and honestly, regardless of with the fact that it'll be in theaters or if it'll be straight to streaming, there's still a powerful tool called word of mouth. And Turning Red has definitely been given a lots of word of mouth. It's already perhaps the most trending animated film that was released this year. It's not exactly on Encanto levels of phenomenal with of the attention it's get, but honestly, it's definitely up there. It's definitely like getting more attention than Wuka for sure, and I'm glad that is. So yeah, definitely check out Turning Red. Has some really cool looking animation, some charming, relatable, and hilarious characters, and definitely a heaping amount of heart as well. Highly recommended, and I honestly, if I were rated on a scale from 1 to 5, which I feel is a bit easier than 1 to 10, I'll definitely give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And trust me, it doesn't just have to do with the fact that, oh, it takes place in Canada, yay, hooray for me, but no, it really is that good. And to be honest, even if it didn't take place in Canada, I still consider it to be an excellent film. A really good film, at least. But at least for me personally, and to anybody else who is Canadian, particularly from Toronto, the fact that that city is being represented the way it was, it's heartwarming, honestly. So once again, congratulations to Domee Shi for the work that she has done, and if you are watching this little Ramblin review, first impressions thingy, Domee, also I really want you to keep up your great work, and I hope to see more stuff from you, and that you grow to be like one of the top Pixar directors in the same veins as Andrew Stanton, Pete Docter, and we Uncreds, and Brad Bird. You definitely really shown your potential. So yeah, folks, if you have a Disney Plus subscription, definitely check out Turning Red, as well as the documentary about the making of the film and the inspirations behind it, Embracing the Panda, really good stuff as well. So yeah, and once you do check out the film, or if you have seen the film already before I made this review, let me know what you think of it down in the comments. I really love to see your feedback. And of course, if you enjoyed this review, like this video and hit the subscribe button for more animation discussions like this in the future, and make sure you hit the bell so you won't miss out on when I put out a next animation discussion in the future. So yeah, take care of yourself, folks, and remember, red pandas are cute. That's all I have to say. Yep. Okay, take care, folks.